Here's how I make sourdough at home. First, we need to get started with the levain. We need about 2 tablespoons each of whole wheat flour, plain bread flour, and our starter, which we made ahead of time. Mix all of these ingredients together. Add enough water that it can combine together to make a nice kind of gloopy mixture like this, and then cover and set aside for 5 hours. Next, we're gonna start making the Autolyse, which is gonna be the main body of our loaf of bread. For the Autolyse, we're gonna combine 50 grams of whole wheat flour to 400 grams of bread flour. Start this about 1 hour before the levain is ready, so about 4 to 5 hours into it resting. And then 300 grams of water. Mix all of the ingredients to combine into one solid mass, and then we're going to let this rest covered at room temperature for about an hour to fully hydrate before we add our levain to the Autolyse. After 5 to 6 hours, the levain should be nice and foamy and bubbly. Add that to the Autolyse, along with 40 grams of water to help it incorporate, and slowly just bring it together. It's going to be a bit of a mess, but that's okay. Once it forms a homogeneous ball, put it back in the bowl, cover it, and let it rest for another hour. After an hour, we're going to add about 15 grams of salt to another 40 grams of water. Add that to the bread mixture, and then like we did before, we're going to bring all the elements together. So just gently knead the dough until it all forms one sort of larger mass. And then pour it out onto your work surface where we'll get started with the slapping and folding. So this is the important part of the process where we're going to be developing the gluten for our bread so that we get that nice crunchy crust and sort of chewy texture that we want in our sourdough. So at first this is going to be a big mess and it's not going to feel like anything's happening, but just stay with it. Start by picking up the dough mass kind of in the middle and turning it 90 degrees and slapping it into the table. And just repeat this process over and over. Eventually it will start to come together. For me, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes, but it really depends on the day. So don't get discouraged, just stay with it. Keep repeating this process and you'll see it start to come together. So now I'm going to divide this dough into two loaves and continue slapping and folding until it comes together into a nice taut ball. You'll know it's ready when it is able to support its own weight and not tear when you lift it up. So now remove the dough balls and set them in their own bowls to rest for the next hour. For my second loaf, I decided to add some fresh rosemary that I just chopped up. I just incorporated this at the last minute and folded it in using the same technique of slapping and folding until it was all uniformly distributed, and then put it back into another bowl to rest for another hour. Over the next hour, every 10 minutes, we're going to pinch and fold the edges around the dough ball into the center. This is to help with the gluten formation and also to create some surface tension on the outside. It's going to give the dough ball support so that it can prove overnight. So after an hour of this process, it's going to be time to put these dough balls to rest for the night. Prepare a bowl with a tea towel lightly dusted in flour. We're going to do one last formation of the dough before we turn it out onto a floured surface. turn it out onto a floured surface. Again, it's going to be sticky. This is a pretty high hydration dough, but don't worry, that's all right. The flour is going to help it prevent from sticking to you. Flour the surface, and then we're going to bring it together into a nice taut ball. You should be able to press into it and have it spring back quickly. At this point, it's time to turn it into the bowl. So release it from the work surface, and we're going to flip it upside down and gently drop it into the bowl. Now cover with the towel, and then use some cling film, put it over, keep it in the fridge overnight, and then the next morning it'll be time to take it out and bake. So to start, we're going to need to prepare a circle of parchment paper that's going to help prevent from sticking to our Dutch oven. We're going to remove our dough ball from the proving basket or bowl. Again, it should have risen slightly, be tender and puffy to the touch. So very gently turn it out onto the parchment paper and remove the tea towel. And now it's time to score. Scoring is going to help it to expand in the oven. Nice clean cuts are what you're looking for. Drop it into the preheated Dutch oven and throw it into the 500-degree oven for about 25 minutes with the lid on. Remove the lid and observe the oven spring. This is going back into the oven for another 25 minutes to firm up the crust and continue cooking before you remove it and let it rest. This is very important to let it rest before you cut into it because the dough is going to still keep cooking inside.